In 1930, an entire Inuit village vanished overnight. No bodies, no footprints, just abandoned huts and untouched food. But decades later, an explorer unearthed something buried deep in the ice, something the villagers may have tried to destroy before they disappeared forever. What did they find? And could it explain what really happened? The cold wind howled through the frozen tundra as Daniel Carter tightened his parka around his face. The frost stung his skin despite the layers, and his breath came out in thick clouds. He had spent years exploring the Arctic, but this expedition was different. This time he was chasing a ghost, a legend whispered through the decades. In 1930, the small Inuit settlement of Angikuni Lake had vanished without a trace. Over 30 people, men, women, and children, had simply disappeared. Their kayaks were still by the shore, their dogs were found frozen to death, and their meals had been left untouched inside their homes. A trapper named Joe LaBelle had discovered the eerie emptiness, and to this day, no one knew what had happened. But Daniel had found something new, something no one else had. Buried deep in the ice, just beyond the abandoned village, he had uncovered an object, a small weathered stone tablet, covered in strange carvings. The moment he had touched it, an unsettling feeling had washed over him, like 1,000 invisible eyes watching from the shadows of the tundra. His Inuit guide, Natar, refused to go near it. "Put it back," Natar had warned, his voice firm. "Some things are meant to stay buried." But Daniel was a scientist, a historian. He didn't believe in curses. He believed in facts. And this tablet might be the key to unraveling the greatest Arctic mystery of all time. He carried it carefully back to his tent, placing it under his lantern's glow. The carvings were intricate, symbols of wolves, the moon, and a large twisting figure with hollow eyes. It didn't resemble traditional Inuit artwork. It was something else, something ancient. As the wind outside grew stronger, Daniel felt a strange sensation creeping over him. The temperature inside the tent seemed to drop, his breath turning to mist despite the heater running beside him. Then he heard it, a whisper, faint, almost carried by the wind but unmistakable. He turned sharply, heart pounding. The tent was empty, but outside, just beyond the flapping entrance, something moved, a shadow watching. Morning arrived in a dull gray haze, the storm having passed, but the unease remained. Daniel sat by the fire, the tablet resting on his lap. Natar refused to look at it. "You should leave it here," Natar muttered, adjusting his gear. "This is not something you want to bring back." "What do you know about it?" Daniel pressed. "This isn't normal Inuit design. Have you seen symbols like these before?" Natar hesitated, then sighed. "A long time ago, my grandfather told me of an old story, older than the villages, older than the land even." Daniel leaned forward. "There was a time when the darkness walked as a man, a spirit, neither alive nor dead. It would come when the moon was full, whispering into the ears of those who listened, and when it spoke your name." Natar exhaled sharply. "You were never seen again." Daniel frowned. "A myth, a legend." Natar met his gaze. "The people of Angikuni didn't believe either, and now they are gone." Daniel swallowed hard, his fingers tightening around the stone. Could this tablet be connected to their disappearance? And if so, was he in danger now? That night, Daniel lay awake in his tent, the tablet beside him. The wind had died down, leaving an unsettling silence. Then came the whisper. Clearer now, closer. He bolted upright, grabbing his flashlight. He could hear footsteps outside, slow, deliberate. "Natar!" he called. No answer. His fingers tightened around his hunting knife as he unzipped the tent and peered outside. Nothing but the endless snow. Then, movement. A figure in the distance, tall, unnaturally thin, standing just at the edge of the tree line, watching. Daniel's breath hitched. He stepped back, gripping his knife. The figure took a step forward. Daniel slammed the tent shut. Whatever was out there, it wasn't human. By dawn, Daniel was ready to leave. The expedition wasn't worth his life. But when he stepped outside, Natar was gone. His gear remained untouched. His footprints led toward the trees, but they stopped abruptly, as if he had simply vanished. Daniel's blood ran cold, the same way the villagers had disappeared. Had Natar tried to warn him? He glanced at the tablet, still clutched in his hand. It had to go back. His instincts screamed at him as he sprinted toward the burial site. The wind howled louder now, almost like a voice calling his name. "Daniel," he froze. The voice hadn't come from the wind. It had come from behind him. Slowly, he turned. The figure was closer now. Its hollow eyes locked onto him. It raised a hand, long, gnarled fingers stretching toward him. Daniel didn't think. He dropped the tablet into the snow and ran. He didn't stop until he reached his sled, the dogs barking wildly. Without hesitation, he untied them, jumped aboard, and cracked the reins. As the sled sped away, he chanced one last glance over his shoulder. The figure was gone, but where the tablet had fallen, the snow had already begun to swallow it whole. Daniel never returned to Angikuni Lake. He never spoke of what he saw, but the mystery remained. The villagers had disappeared without a trace. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just silence. And deep beneath the ice, hidden once again, the artifact waited for the next explorer to find it.